Hello and welcome to this beautiful London apartment where I am going to be showing you all the way around. Okay, so firstly, we are in this lovely entrance corridor. It's really gorgeous because they've kitted out the floor with this really lovely marble and this really beautiful framing detail. So really all we've needed to add in terms of soft furnishings is something just to make it feel slightly more soft and warm. And of course, as an entrance, we wanted there to be the ability that you could see yourself just before leaving and just after coming in. So unlike sort of standard mirrors, what we've done is used mirrors that are sectioned, which makes again the space feel a bit warmer, because had we have just used a mirror that was, you know, a completely full mirror just with a simple frame, I think actually it would have made this space feel a little bit more cold. Then we have this really beautiful and very grand bench that actually is not just beautiful, but incredibly comfortable. We've lined it with this really stunning upholstery fabric in this sort of Chanel-esque boucle fabric, which is absolutely lovely. And again, just to soften it again and a little bit more, we've added on this really soft lambswool throw. Don't forget that your entrance is important. What happens in here really sets the tone for what you and your guests are about to see and feel. When I first started interior design, I used to think that if you had two sofas in a room, you know, the cushion composition on each sofa had to be the same. You know, of course you can have it the same, and I, you know, don't say that that's not possible. But what I've realized in later years is that actually it's quite nice if you've got the same sofa, especially, and you change up the cushion pattern or the cushion design on each sofa, the sofa suddenly looks very different, and it's really lovely to do. So you can see a really good example of that here, where, you know, you have the much sort of darker, deeper cushions on this sofa, and on this one here, it's a sort of lighter mix. But what I've managed to do is keep some blues in both, so that I've pulled that through and then pulled it through to the rest of the scheme. This chandelier is, I mean, it's a beautiful piece and it's a really lovely piece of lighting, but it's quite nice because I've been able to hang it quite low. The nice thing about being able to hang something quite low is that actually you can see it whilst you're sitting, and it's not something that you just see when you walk into a room. This is a particularly lovely area. If you can see behind me, you've got the London Eye, and it's just absolutely stunning in here. And what's lovely about this little corner is that actually we've got this lovely round table that, you know, sort of emulates and reflects what's happening outside with the circular movement and motion of the London Eye. And I think it's so lovely to have it here and to be able to sit here and have a cup of coffee in the morning and just pull in that London Eye circular theme and keep it here in the space. So, you know, it really is connecting the outdoors with the indoors. Something that is really important in a space where you have lots and lots of magnificently large windows is being able to know how to dress them. Now, this is quite a modern apartment. We've been able to place these really neatly just at the top. They are triple pleated curtains. They are blackout curtains because obviously you may get lots of light in here when you don't necessarily want to. There's an open TV in here which may catch the light. So having them as blackouts is really important at certain points of the day when you do have big windows and lots of sunlight coming in from lots of different angles. But then also what I really like to do is have really beautiful and sort of heavier setting shears. So, the heavier the shear is, the better it falls in many ways. So you can just see that it falls really beautifully, and it almost in many ways could look like a curtain. The nice thing about having shears throughout this space is if you don't want to close up the curtains and have a really dark space, you can actually bring in some light by just pulling the shears across and just having this very sort of luxurious soft feel to the space. So in every space in this room, we have considered finish. So these are sofas, and the client wanted something quite neutral and light. And so obviously we've got to manage the expectation of making sure that this doesn't get dirty all the time, and actually can wear well. So what we've done here is we've used this really nice thick upholstery fabric. It feels beautifully soft, but it is very hard wearing. And you can immediately feel when you touch it that although it's soft, this is a sturdy fabric. We've thought a lot about the details in every single area, the piping on the sofa, the piping on the cushions. And in fact, if I come over even just here to this table, where you have this really lovely limestone finish, again, you can see that yes, it's a metal frame, but actually it's this beautiful hammered finish on the metal frame. And it's those very small details that make the big difference. It's not quite black, it's sort of slightly off that color. There's a bronze tone in there, and it's really soft. And rather than having a bright white table at the top, it's a really lovely sort of creamy-ish limestone color. And all of those things do make a big difference. Okay, so this is the live-in dining area. And, the two things that will stand out to you most are probably the dining benches and of course this really incredible light that we have, the lighting fixture that sits just above the table. What you need to remember when it comes to a bench on a dining table is don't make it too big, because of course, can you imagine trying to pull this out for 3 or 4 people? And also, if it were for 3 or 4 people, you'd have problems when somebody wanted to leave and, somebody was sitting in the middle. If they wanted to get out, everybody would need to get out. So those are considerations that you need to have in mind. Behind me, what you will see is some really lovely paneling detailing. To me, this just looks very simple, very classic contemporary, but also quite bold, because really you could do anything inside these. You could add mirrors to them or paintings. We've left it very simple and very plain. The client, of course, can choose to have paintings in there, but we've left it very simple because really, for me, this dining space is, a calm but bold area, and sometimes doing too much just feels a little bit distracting, and really you want the focus to be here on the dining table. Finally, we have the lights up here and this beautiful lighting fixture. It's a really bold statement, and this is one of the areas where you really can make a bold statement with lighting. And again, similarly to the living room, you can bring down the lighting, because in reality, it's unlikely that you're going to be bashing your head. It's in the middle of the table, and whilst you're seated, you can still feel the sort of gravity and the luxuriousness, if you like, of this statement piece of lighting. So it's really lovely that whilst you're sitting down, it's still within view, and you have been able to set it slightly lower, because like I say, it's in the middle of a dining table, and so of course you're unlikely to bump your head against it. But those are considerations. Here is somewhere you can make a big bold statement, and if you can, why not? Okay, so the next area that I wanted to talk to you about was a very small but unique corridor. Now, I always say that we shouldn't really forget any space in a home, and although you don't have to go overboard with corridors, and they're clearly not filled with furniture, it is nice to make something of them so they don't feel like forgotten spaces. You should consider the spaces and the walk-through areas. Don't forget about them, because people do walk through to go from one space to another, And you want to feel that connection in a home. It's not just about the furniture you use, but how you connect the spaces and how that makes you feel in your own home or somebody else feel in theirs. This bedroom is very special in my opinion and very unique. There is so much layering here, and it really does create that sense of warmth and coziness. So although this is a really luxurious looking bedroom, it still feels warm and inviting. I think in this room, it was very important to create this sense of layering and warmth, because actually on the outside, where again, you have this really incredible special view, it does feel very large and very vast. The London Eye is spectacular, but it does have this sort of vastness about it, these massive buildings that are very overpowering. And so what you want to do is, although you're bringing that inside, you want this space to maintain a feeling of warmth and softness and homeliness in many ways. This is your bedroom. This is where you're going to be to unwind. So that's really important. We've got so many different types of fabrics in here. The client loved the color green, as you can see. And so we found a really nice way of layering up that color to create a really interesting look. So rather than just have a flat green, we've sort of elevated the color. We have managed to layer it up in so many different ways, and actually it almost feels like you've got different colors in the room. So although the green is the focal color, what it does is, with all the different layering, it makes it feel very, very interesting. Side lights and side lamps on side tables, bedside tables, are always a topic of interest. People are always fascinated with whether or not they should use a table lamp or a hanging lamp. Now, I think that very much depends on how you use your bed and what you're doing in your bedroom. So if you're somebody that likes to read and put lots of books beside you, then it's quite nice to have a clear space on your bedside table and it not feel like it's filled with a big side lamp. And actually there's space in there that you can do various things, like write on your notebook, put your books down, put your glasses down even, and your cup of tea. But there are some people who, in fact, like myself, don't often use their bedside table. And so in reality, it doesn't really bother me to have it filled with a beautiful lamp. And in fact, to somebody like me who doesn't necessarily read in their bed or, sit and have their tea in bed, actually having an empty table would just feel wrong to me. So I think you've got to decide what kind of a person are you and your partner or the other half, and know how that particular space works for you. Okay, so the headboard is, one of my favorite things in this home. It really is something that we thought long and hard about. We wanted the client to be able to have mirrors in the space. We wanted them to be able to have a beautiful piece of hand-sewn wallpaper and chinoiserie, but we also wanted them to have a really soft feeling headboard, but have that feel more luxurious with this beautiful timber frame, again framed with a smaller brass framing. In the end, we've managed to give the client everything that they wanted and make it as beautiful as possible within all of those guidelines. And I think it really is absolutely stunning now with all of that put together. And I'm very, very proud of it.